Okay, so let's start with chapter 10 and let's look at the 7 sympathetic nervous responses. Let's go ahead and draw that out on the board. Looking at sympathetic nervous responses, remember it's stress SS. So sympathetic nervous responses, everything is going up. Blood pressure is going up, heart rate's going up, glucose rates are going up, stored ATP is going up. We know that the only thing that is not going to go up is the digestion, which is going to halt. The autonomic nervous system, remember, is our fight or flight reaction. So if I get into a fight or flight scenario, everything is going to be an unconscious controlled. Autonomic means automatic. If I have conscious control, like the sock example that we gave in class, if I can sit and think about the sock and it stresses me out, this is a somatic nervous control. I have no ability, or excuse me, I do have ability to think about the stress and get that done. Sympathetic, everything's going up. We're talking about some of the hormones that are also going to be released. We know that epinephrine is going to go up. We know that our cortisol levels are going to go up. And we know that our endorphins are going to go up. If we have everything going up during this response, that middle ground that we like to be in, the homeostasis type place, homeostasis, eventually during that stress response, I'm going to be brought back down. During that brought back down phase, that's where we're going to see the parasympathetic nervous responses. If you move on to number 10, is going to bring me back down to homeostasis. So parasympathetic nervous responses are going to be heart rate slows down, blood pressure comes back down, digestion begins again. We know that norepinephrine is going to be released to try to help me bring myself back down in slow body processes. We also know that the other word for epinephrine is going to be my adrenaline. Cortisol is number 4, our fat bus. Remember, cortisol is going to help get fat so that I can use it for energy. Eventually, I'm going to run out of glucose. I'm going to need some fat to keep me running from bears and keeping me alive. Cortisol helps me stay moving. Adrenaline is also known as my epinephrine. And in 127 hours, in order for that person to be able to cut off his arm, he had these things called endorphins, which are also released when you run, hence the word runner's high. That should help you distinguish between the hormones and the other things that are being released during that sympathetic nervous response. The general adaptation syndrome, remember, I wrote on the board that gas equals R, G-A-S equals A-R-E. Remember that I had something that looked like this, where that lifeline was here. Right away during this phase is my biggest risk of death. We call this the alarm phase. Real world examples of this would be me, jumping from behind a desk and scaring somebody getting a text saying that they'd won $1 million. That alarm phase is going to be the initial response of that fight or flight reaction. Eventually, I'm going to get into resistance. And this could be something like in class, we had the person that had won the F-150 numerous times. We're getting into a place where they are no longer affected by the stress as they once were. They're starting to resist, all of the stimulus that you're going to see during the stress response, and eventually you're going to get to this exhaustion phase where, remember that there's 2 things that are going to happen. Either me or the stress goes away. So I pass away of a stress-related disease, or the person, the thing, the stressor goes away. Real life examples that you could put into this. Alarm, this is going to be the initial everything, the text, the phone call, the person knocking at your door, me getting in a car accident, that's the alarm. Resistance, I'm going to start to build up my body to not pass away of whatever it is. I'm getting further away from the bear that's running after me. The car accident already happened. It's not going to keep happening. And then you get to the exhaustion phase where either I am no longer next to the stress, or the stress is not by me, or I go away, the stress goes away. Good stresses, remember the Latin root EU, like euphoric, is going to be a good stress. A bad stress is a distress. And if I don't have something, remember we're always going to use the word A. A stress is going to be no stress. The health effects of stress, they're going to be something like an ulcer, high blood pressure, also known as hypertension. You're going to see depression, weight gain, weight loss, ulcerations. All of those were covered in that PDF we covered in class, and we learned that there were 2 ways to deal with your stress. Hope the stressful situation goes away, and work hard, drive on. Those were the 2 techniques that were used. Let's now work on chapter 11.